Baron Shatteron has two daughters. One is cheerful and sociable, with soft, golden hair. Anastasia, the older sister, is like a princess, while the other is tall like a boy. All the tattered younger sister, Marie, did was read books. The Shatteron family was poor. Every day, there was a mountain of housework to be done. Meals for the family must be prepared as well. And while they ate at the dinner table, Marie consumed scraps alone in the kitchen. She also did her father's work, balancing the accounts and signing documents in his stead. But it was all right. Tomorrow was her birthday. Surely it'd be a good day. The next day, their little brother Cedric gleamed at Anastasia's beauty. The Baron stood up to announce his daughter Anastasia was the star of today's event, and everyone clapped. Of course, it could never be Marie. Today was also the debut party for her sister to find someone to marry among the great houses. Marie got shoved as the men swarmed around Anna, but seeing her run off, Anna was worried about her. Marie lived an empty life in the shadow of her sister. Staring at her reflection in a puddle, she wondered why she was born so horribly ugly. She jolted with the man behind informing her he was invited to the birthday party. His servant behind, named Mio, informed him this girl was not a maid, as the Shatterons only had one 60-year-old maid. Figuring Marie was one of the sisters, Cyrus apologized, sparkling before her. She had to talk to this pretty boy, asking if he was the guest from the Ipsandros Republic. And yes, his mother was apparently a traveling performer from there. Marie was so excited, she really started yapping, pointing out his clothes were traditional formal wear, something she'd learned from the books she read. He thought it was a little strange that she studied Ips culture, since this country was so insular. To this, she'd ramble further, bringing up that once a person realized the depth of Ipsandrian technology and culture, they were instantly captivated by it. He got excited, sharing that his wardrobe and underclothes were also made of Ips silk, making her giggle, calling him quite fashionable. She loved the stories from his nation, such as the Raggedy Red Cat. It was the tale of an abandoned cat that traveled with a kindly wanderer, growing stronger along the way. She felt she could relate because of her red hair. She stopped her clamoring, remembering her father shouting at her, "A woman who makes a show of her knowledge was an embarrassment." She apologized for her shamefulness and tried to run off, but Cyrus would call for her. When she turned back, she saw eyes more beautiful than any star. How could he be so wonderful? He must be here to propose to her sister. Tears welled up in her eyes, believing she was comparatively much less. Cyrus thought he upset her by mistaking her for a servant, but we know that wasn't it. Looking at her unglamorous clothing, he wondered why she wasn't wearing something fancy, and she smiled, telling him she just simply wasn't lovely, that's all. She tried to run off again, but he'd grab her, saying to her face, "You are beautiful." But she'd only respond by telling him the evening star was in the salon, and she ran all the way to the shed she was forced to live in, aching because she'd always longed to hear those words from someone. She wondered why she felt so sad. 1 month after that terrible birthday, a letter with a marriage proposal arrived. Count Granado was calling to marry Anastasia, and the Baron was excited to hear his daughter would be marrying upward. The Count was the son of Duke Granado. The family was extremely wealthy, and Anastasia would be able to live more lavishly than the monarch of a small country. Anna seemed reluctant, but her father commanded Marie to hurry up and pen a reply. He wanted her to inform their relatives and any neighboring nobility. Anna would later express her grievances to Marie about marrying a man whose face she barely remembered. She also heard Count Granado was a bad-tempered eccentric who hated women. That aside, Anna was excited to show Marie clothes that would fit her well, since she was so tall. These clothes were made for women who wanted to cross-dress as men. Anna absolutely loved to see beautiful women dressed as men. She loved dashing ladies. She made these outfits herself. Marie had no idea her older sister had interests like this. If their family could no longer sustain itself someday, Anna considered opening a shop in the royal capital. She hoped her beloved sister would make the most of her skills and do work that she loved. This touched Marie. She loved Anna, too, but on her way to marry the Count, she lost her life in an accident. Marie stared at the copy of The Raggedy Red Cat that Anna used to always read to her. She was suddenly struck by her mother, telling her she should have been the one to die, and beat Marie, asking why she was alive and not Anna. She blamed Marie for Anna's death, but the Baron stopped his wife, because he didn't want her to leave marks. The mother intended to leave scarring so no one would ever look at Marie's face ever again. However, he couldn't let that happen, because Marie had to take Anna's place. He explained that even though she was hideous, he already sold everything that was sent to them for the betrothal. He wanted Marie to exploit the Count for being heartbroken over the loss of Anna. As long as she created just one night of comfort, they'd win. Telling Marie this was how she could atone, she wondered what crime did she commit, soon accepting that being born lowly as the reason. On the carriage ride there, the father told her to be docile and amenable, and with her agreeing with a smile, he told her even her smile was unlovable, and that it would have been better for her to have died instead of Anastasia. He later shouted at the guard Thomas, demanding to be let into the palace because he sent a letter in advance. Mio came out, telling the Baron a letter sent this morning was far too soon, causing him to get violent. But Mio would turn the tables on him. Marie bowed, apologizing on behalf of her father. The guard and maid thought the bow of contrition was way too fluid. Now seeing who she was, Mio told Thomas to send a message to their master immediately. Welcoming her in, they found Cyrus shouting at Thomas, commanding they send Marie away, because the one he wanted to propose to was Anastasia, not the younger sister. He wished he had whisked Anna away that night. But now seeing the woman he was looking for, things got a little awkward. Marie couldn't believe he was the man she met that night. The Baron tried explaining what happened, and Cyrus had no idea that the taller redhead was actually the younger sister Marie. With her father mocking her looks, Cyrus scowled at him. He knew his look was unseemly and told Marie to spend the night in comfort here. Getting served tea, Marie was excited to talk about the special spices from the Republic, ginger and cinnamon, that provided health benefits. She thought it was truly wonderful, making Mio giggle, thinking Marie was adorable. Cyrus then entered, explaining he told the Baron there was no need to return the gifts, and they could be offered to Anastasia's grave. He wanted to know if Marie's family had been abusing her, causing her to jolt. While they didn't give her much affection, she assumed it was because they were training her. She had a really low self-esteem, answering her parents were strict, so a know-nothing like her could survive. She tried to assure the Count, but he'd quickly tell her to call him Cyrus. He didn't like to be called by his family name or title. He then questioned if she wasn't mistreated, then why was she dressed so shabby on her birthday? Clothes like those were normally worn by widows and nuns. It was a color meant to turn men away. Was she trying to become a nun? Or did she hate men? Was she unhappy with her family? Marie didn't answer right away, just reflecting on everything. It wasn't the life she wanted, but she never entertained any hope of escaping that place. With her responding that she just simply wasn't lovely, Cyrus called Mio to take Marie away. She assumed she was being cast out, but turns out Mio was taking her to a bath and getting a new change of clothes. Walking outside, Marie observed the estate to be large and beautiful. She had never seen a bath before, wondering how much firewood and water it used. Aha! Now she assumed they were going to have her chop firewood and clean, as a way for her to wash away all the discourteousness she's shown. She thought of Cyrus as certainly magnanimous. She was then greeted by Tunica, the keeper of the baths. She knew many bathing methods and massages that were good for health and beauty. Marie was startled, having no idea when Tunica took her clothes off. They then informed her this bath was for her to be beautified, and Marie enjoyed the warm water infused with salt, honey, and citrus fruits. Cyrus was getting impatient waiting for his fiancé, and when she stepped out, she was dazzling. She saw herself in the mirror and couldn't believe she could be this beautiful. Cyrus was flush, taken aback by her. He called for Lulu, his mother. Examining Marie, she remarked he was more swayed by good looks than she thought. He wanted his mother to take this seriously, since the head of the family's approval was necessary for marriage between nobles. The mother answered, "No good," seeing Marie was overwhelmingly lacking in confidence. The future wife of a duke must stand proudly, noble, and strong, at least before the wedding day. He was glad to hear his mother was going to do what she could to help. Mio congratulated Marie. The Duchess had approved her betrothal to Lord Cyrus, and she was now officially engaged to him. Everyone cheered, congratulating the two, but Marie would shout she couldn't do this. Cyrus recalled how speechless he was when he saw Marie in her dazzling dress. Polished, she was so beautiful, it was as if she'd been reborn. Her melancholic eyes sparkled like stars. Mio would snap him back to reality, reminding him that Marie refused his proposal, and he was distraught, tearing up, calling Mio cruel. But this was her duty. Still, she was surprised that he proposed to the wrong sister. But how could Cyrus have known that the girl sitting alone in the darkness was the secret star of the party? His father, Duke Alfred Granado, had 2 wives. The daughter of a noble family equal to the Duke's, Lady Laura, was Alfred's official wife. The other was an Ipsandrian traveling performer he took as his concubine, Lulu. One day, while chasing a butterfly, the young Cyrus fell, hurting his head. Lady Laura would approach the boy and offer him a treat she had baked. He was quite trusting to eat it, but that was only because of how delicious it was. Cyrus loved it. Hearing this, Laura was intrigued and eager to know what else he liked. He told her he loved cakes, cream puffs, and all sorts of treats. Laura also loved sweets because when she made them, she didn't have to think about unpleasant things. So, she then promised to make some chocolate cookies for him. Later on, the Duke would address Cyrus and Lulu. Although Laura was his official wife, she'd only given him girls. Because of this, Cyrus was to inherit his dukedom. Laura overheard this conversation and she boiled with rage. That night, Cyrus discovered that Laura had taken her life, leaving her daughters in painful sorrow. He couldn't comprehend why the woman who had been so kind to him would choose death of her own free will. After that, Lulu was elevated to the position of official wife. She still felt she was no more than a concubine and left the Duke, taking Cyrus with her. In order to survive the land, Cyrus attained the status of count through his own efforts. However, he hated the gatherings of noble society and evaded any talks of marriage to noble daughters. During one of these gatherings, he attended at the request of his friend, Ruifon. They had both received invitations from Baron Shadowrun, but Ruifon knew this was just a tactic for the Baron to market his daughter. He already had a fiancé. He asked Cyrus to attend the birthday party instead, but he wasn't interested. They would get interrupted by a lady who brought sweets for Cyrus, and the sight of chocolate made him anxious. But he accepted it nonetheless. Ruifon could tell that the ladies loved him. On the other hand, Cyrus felt they were only after his title and money, but deep down, they all despised his heritage. The average noble daughter detested Ipsandros as a land of barbarians. All the ladies stared at him, gossiping about the color of his skin and his mother. Ruifon understood how his friends felt, but said he couldn't remain a bachelor forever. Being a count and the only son of a ducal house, if Cyrus stayed single, there wouldn't be anyone to carry on the Duke's lineage. Ruifon wondered what kind of lady would be able to win Cyrus's heart, and he was looking forward to it. On the other hand, Cyrus doubted such a day would ever come. That thought quickly changed, now figuring that his friend might have been right. The daughter of an impoverished baron might just be right for him, and if it's only a marriage of convenience, then someone easy to manage would be best. With him recalling the women who mocked his origins and his dead stepmother, he felt love was something he'd never feel. Or so he thought. From that first encounter with Marie, he had completely fallen in love with her. He wanted to speak with her more, but she slipped right through his fingers. During the birthday party, he asked the Baron for his daughter, but the Baron pointed towards Anastasia, begging Cyrus to take her as a bride. Cyrus had heard about the 2 sisters, but he mistook Anastasia for Marie, and vice versa. So, he searched for his love everywhere around the manor, but no matter how hard he looked, he couldn't find her. Afterwards, he decided to send a letter. He didn't want the younger sister Marie, but the older sister Anastasia as his wife, mistakenly, and was delighted to receive a reply. From then on, he became quite busy. To offer his fiancée the finest hospitality, he arranged for jewels, dresses, and new servants, even acquiring a body pillow to hold through the sleepless nights as he waited. But the tragedy of Anastasia's death left him distraught. And then, amid his heartbreak and despair, the woman whom he thought was Anastasia arrived. Although her knowledge was lacking, Mio told Cyrus that he was foolish for not realizing who Marie really was. Now that he was rejected, she commended him for accepting the truth, and then reminded him how he turned away and shunned Marie's new look. Also, the way he said, "Send Marie Shadowrun away," wasn't the best choice of words. Due to this, Mio said that Marie must have believed that Cyrus hated her. However, she told him to give it his best shot. After all, he was the one in a one-sided love situation. Cyrus then decided they should go see Marie because he wanted to see her smile. Meanwhile, she stared at herself in the mirror, seeing only her worn-out, tattered clothing and her well-thumbed, beloved book. She believed that was all the world had bestowed upon her, and yet she couldn't recognize herself. seeing how dazzling she actually looked. Cyrus and Mio would then enter the room, interrupting her thoughts. Marie then quickly apologized for the rudeness she had displayed earlier. Cyrus would ask her to raise her head, saying that he's the one who needs to apologize. As he saw her sparkling eyes, it left him flush, speechless. With a little foot stomping from Mio, he then cleared the misunderstanding, letting Marie know that he didn't hate her. He had thought she had come to the palace of her own free will, and so he apologized for making such assumptions. He still wanted her to become his wife, which she quickly accepted extremely nonchalantly. She explained that she only denied his proposal initially because she was so shocked. She understood that to inherit the title of Duke, he needed to marry a woman of noble birth. However, finding a wife must have been difficult. If that wasn't the case, someone of his status would have never attended a poor baron's party. Of course, she still believed he fell for her beautiful sister Anastasia, and not herself. Calling herself the useless younger sister, she believed she was here to replace Anastasia, but assured Cyrus that she knew her place, not minding being treated however Cyrus pleased. Cyrus then confessed he had a political marriage in mind when he went to the party, but that night, his feelings changed. He said his letter was no facade, and he meant every word. Marie believed that those feelings were conveyed to Anastasia, and Cyrus told her she was wrong. But it was all still confusing her. The clock then rang, signaling the time for dinner. Mio suggested that they continued their conversation while they ate. A single taste of the food was enough for Marie to know it was much more delicious than the food she had back home. Cyrus would then tell her that they wouldn't be having a marriage of convenience, confessing that he really wanted to marry her. Marie said she was honored, which let him know that she didn't believe him. She told him not to be so careful about her feelings, confirming it even further. For anyone born into nobility, marriage was a duty, and she believed this was the same for Cyrus. His responsibilities and hers couldn't be compared. Marie was certain that he would take a concubine, and she would return to her tattered clothes and work again. She didn't mind, because life would be much the same as it had always been. Cyrus would then say he loved her, which made her even more confused. Love? Who was in love? With whom? It made the least sense of all to her. Whatever the case, they had agreed on their betrothal. Cyrus said the wedding ceremony would be in 3 months, and he would make all the arrangements. She suddenly requested to go back home just once, explaining that her father didn't believe that the betrothal would come to pass, and she was to serve as his comfort for a night. And after forming a bond with him, the Baron insisted that she be kicked out and returned to him. Hearing this, Cyrus and Mio were absolutely furious. The two of them left the room to discuss the matter, causing Marie to believe she had been disrespectful all this time. In a short moment, Mio returned, telling her that she was forbidden to return to her parents' house on Cyrus's orders. And if her parents were to visit, she was advised to seek Cyrus's permission before seeing them. Mio then asked Marie why she believed she was ugly. Of course, it was because of her parents. Her hair was always covered in balls of lint, and she had freckles. Her parents always made her look at her dirty, raggedy self in the mirror. Mio then told Marie to look in the mirror, but Marie wondered what would happen if she did. After all, she believed the real her wasn't the one she saw now. It didn't feel real at all. She would later quickly fall in love with how warm and fluffy the bed was. It was like the world in a fairy tale. Beautiful, glittering clothes, wonderful lady attendants, and a count with charming green eyes. Marie was certain that the spell would be broken when she woke up, and all that would be left was her in despair. The memory of Cyrus's love confession flashed through her mind, making her feel embarrassed while kicking her feet at the bed. This was a dream she didn't want to wake up from. After all, if it was a dream, then it was all right for her to be happy. She would be greeted by the morning sunshine, and when she saw the sparkling clean room, she believed she was still dreaming. Mio and some other maids then entered the room, greeting Marie. However, Marie quickly kowtowed and returned the greeting. Mio would then tell her to remain at ease, because she was officially Cyrus's fiancé. After that, she introduced the other 2 maids as Hannah and Ilza, who would be looking after her daily needs, making her a bit nervous. Marie couldn't believe someone like her was being given attendance, and 2 of them at that. She was certain she would be too careful around them, but knew this was a common practice among aristocracy. So she gave an enchanting smile as she introduced herself, causing Ilza to shake her head with slight disapproval. Marie then asked if they were from the royal capital, and Ilza replied yes, adding that they were both from knight houses, and had come here at the recommendation of the 3rd prince. Not only that, they had even served at the royal palace, which Marie found amazing. Ilza and Hannah didn't hide their condescension, however, implying that stories of the royal capital should hardly be novel for a noble like Marie. Marie felt as if she were talking to her parents. Mia would snap her back to her senses, asking if she would like her breakfast now. At the dining table, Marie was overwhelmed by all the fine dishes before her. The appetizer was a charcuterie assortment of 7 items. There was pork ham and sausage. The terrine was pheasant. The pâté de campagne, I don't know how to say that, was duck and venison as well. There were quite a lot of animals here. Mio then told Marie that they had prepared a lot of dishes for her, and she was free to point out whichever she preferred. Marie's palate and stomach were lacking, which made her doubt she'd be able to finish all of this. Mio told her to just eat what she could and leave the rest. But Marie replied, "Oh, I couldn't," feeling it would be such a waste. Despite her feelings, these were Kairos' orders. A single taste of food made her light up with excitement. It was so delicious that she had to try every other dish, and they were delightful as well. But soon enough, her stomach was full. As she struggled to keep the food down, Mio advised her not to force herself, but Marie insisted that she still had some room, only to completely shatter her fullness meter. The remaining food was taken away, and Marie felt so sad for the ingredients and the chef. Later on, Mio offered to show Marie around the palace once she had gotten some rest. She then opened the door to a wardrobe filled with so many elegant dresses and shoes. Marie was completely taken in by the magnificent sight. Of course, she couldn't wear them all at the same time. She still only had one body. In addition, there were other dresses befitting other seasons, over 100 prepared in total. She couldn't comprehend the quantity of the quality. After changing, they began their tour of the palace. Granado Castle was built to protect the kingdom's borders from the front lines during war. The House of Granado, Margraves at the time, constructed it to be a fortress. Marie recalled that House Granado had ties to the royal family, and Mio confirmed, but explained that after the war, they attained the rank of duke, and now simply governed their own lands. They weren't in the line of succession. Since the castle was only used for special functions, Mio offered to show Marie the manor house, where she would reside. As the doors opened, it revealed a large, beautiful courtyard filled with lovely flowers. The manor itself was also very lovely. Mio let Marie know that it was built by Duchess Lulu. The first floor housed the kitchen and also served as a residence for live-in staff. There were also private rooms for the Duchess's family and facilities for entertaining important guests. While exploring the place, Marie came across Thomas and quickly apologized for her father's rude behavior. But Thomas was more surprised that Marie knew his name. It made him quite happy. He properly introduced himself as Dibomov Thomas Tender. Hearing his first name, Marie asked if he was named after the hero Dibomov, who discovered Lohav Island. Thomas was shocked that she knew about the hero and said he was from the very island. His eyes gleamed with excitement as he commended Marie for being incredibly knowledgeable. However, Mio quickly toppled him over and reminded him that Marie was the master's fiancée, so he was not to touch her without permission. Afterwards, they went to a room which Marie thought was wonderful as well. She asked Mio if Kairos conducted business with countries all over the world, but Mio replied that he only traded with the Ipsandros Republic. Marie was curious because she had seen folk crafts from other countries all around the manor, and Mio would let her know that these were personal items of the servants. The head chef was from Flaria, the gardener was from the nation of Bandali. They had many nationalities here. This place was quite diverse. Suddenly, Mio pointed out the master was quite perverse. In this kingdom, prejudice was a matter of course, but Kairos hired promising individuals regardless of talent, which was why everyone here was so devoted to him. Marie asked if it was from the royal capital, but the maid answered that she was an abandoned child. She was told that she was left at a roadside inn. Marie felt bad and quickly apologized, but Mio told her there was no need. She had lived quite an enjoyable life, and even used to comfort Kairos when he was little. This made Marie wonder how old Mio was. Most of the servants had difficult backgrounds, which was why Mio felt Ilza and Hannah were more suitable to be Marie's attendants. Both of them possessed the dignity of nobles born in the kingdom. But Marie didn't care about that. She thought about how she'd rather hear stories of other countries, folk songs about old heroes learned by heart, the call of an enormous bird with rainbow-colored feathers. Marie then thanked Mio for going through so much trouble for her, and promised to learn as much as she could in order to not embarrass any of them. But Mio didn't know what to make of this. After dinner, Marie was served a cup of tea by Ilza. She requested some milk because she usually added it to her black tea. Ilza replied, "Doesn't that ruin the flavor?" and mocked her, saying, "What a novel way to drink." Hannah expected nothing less of Marie, saying she was so free in her sensibilities. However, Marie thought this shouldn't have been an issue in terms of aristocratic etiquette. She just assumed her maids probably didn't like milk, so she apologized and decided to drink it anyways. In bed, she thought about how she had a long day and wondered if Lord Kairos was still busy this late at night. Meanwhile, he was riding in a carriage, wondering if Marie was enjoying herself. His assistant reminded him of his booked schedule for the next day, and this made Kairos weep, wondering when he'd be able to go home. A few days later, Marie was served with a fine, large breakfast as usual. As she munched, she noted that the crisp juiciness of the vegetables was so comforting. This made her ask Mio where she procured the delicious vegetables, learning it was from the vegetable garden in the courtyard. Marie's eyes sparked with excitement. She asked to see it, but Mio couldn't join her because she had to prepare for Kairos' return. So, she told Marie to take Ilza and Hannah with her. Of course, Marie wasn't too delighted, but she hoped this opportunity would help her grow closer to the two of them. Out in the garden, she watched the beautiful butterflies fluttering. There, she met the old man caretaker of the garden, Johann. With eyes of excitement, she asked him if he was getting ready to plant the tomato seedlings. He replied that this year's had grown quite well, and she noted it was that time of year. Hearing this, Johann threw the question, "Could it be that you've grown vegetables yourself?" Marie replied, "Yes." She explained it was less expensive than buying them, and if there was extra, it could be sold. For a house as poor as hers, their garden was a lifeline. As she was about to step into the garden, her maids screamed. They couldn't believe that she was about to walk on the bare dirt. Hannah felt Marie was unaware that gardens were supposed to be looked at, not walked into. They looked down on her, saying she probably liked bugs or the old man. Marie couldn't believe how rude they were. She felt she might have been deserving of ridicule, but Johann didn't. As he walked into the garden, Marie tried to chase after him, but she stopped in her tracks when her beautiful shoes stepped on the dirt. She knew she couldn't get dirt on the beautiful shoes the Count had given her. At night, she found it hard to sleep, so she decided to get some water. On her way out, she saw the lights on. Someone was awake. Marie peeked through the door and was startled seeing Kairos. He explained that he got back late and missed dinner. Then, having her take a seat, she got flustered next to him. Kairos mentioned it had been 4 days since he'd last seen her, and that she'd grown even more beautiful in this time. She humbly disagreed, adding that she'd been indulging in the kindness of everyone. Kairos laughed, thinking she was always like this. As her eyes met his face, Kairos was sparkling beautifully, so much that it made her heart race. Mio and the chef, Tapo, then came in with Kairos' food. For some reason, Tapo gave Marie a grouchy glare. He then offered Kairos a light meal of chicken and cassava and a salt-based soup. Marie then commented that it smelt delicious. So, Kairos asked the chef to give her a serving, which he reluctantly did, unsure if it would suit her taste. Marie felt anxious about the way Tapo was being prickly, but the taste of the food made her forget all about that. The food here was always delicious. However, Tapo was wailing and told Marie that there was no need for polite flattery. After all, no matter how much he tried, she never finished her food. He started rambling about how he lacked the skills and felt sorry for the ingredients. Marie quickly explained that she didn't leave the food because it tasted bad, and also felt bad for wasting the ingredients as well. Kairos questioned if Mio hadn't asked Marie what she liked, and the maid replied that Marie was unable to say when she disliked something. Marie insisted that the food was delicious, but she just got full and couldn't finish it. Tapo was beyond relieved to hear this. Afterwards, Kairos apologized to Marie for creating a situation that made her consider others first. He then asked if there was anything else she found trying, but she said everything was wonderful and it would be a shame to waste all these things on her. When he asked about Ilza and Hannah, Marie replied they took care of her well, which was obviously a lie. Kairos explained that it was a friend who recommended the two maids. Since Marie would soon be a duchess, he wanted her to be received in a manner befitting the station. She still told him that the maids were doing well, and Kairos pointed out that her habit of enduring unpleasantness was a dire one. Just because someone treated her well didn't mean she was obligated to be happy about it. He urged her to tell him whenever she wasn't happy about something. Marie didn't understand what it meant to pick what she liked. She did the work needed to be done and accepted what was given to her. That was enough. She couldn't comprehend choosing based on her feelings. So, she apologized to Kairos, saying she didn't want to squander his kindness, but he promised to give her anything she lacked. Marie couldn't help but be captivated by his sparkly green eyes. They would get interrupted by Mio, who brought out some tea for them and a meal for herself. Looking at the large food, Marie thought, "It's so big, could that be Mio's late-night snack?" Kairos then brought her attention to the kettles in front of them, asking if she knew what they were. But she didn't. He called it chaidanluk, and it was used to make tea in Ipsandros. He then explained the intricacies of it. With a dreamy expression, Kairos asked Marie to tell him about herself. Her face was completely red, but she had no idea what to say, and felt devastated because she had never experienced anything fun in her life. At that moment, she recalled her childhood when her sister asked what she would like to play. Marie then suggested Kairos play word chains with her, but he looked confused. In response, she quickly covered her face in shame, thinking, why would someone in his exalted position even want to play word chains? Marie felt embarrassed about her childish request. Surprisingly, Kairos was already thinking of a way for them to enjoy the game well. Marie then asked him about what he liked, and so he settled to limit the game only to things that they liked personally. Of course, his first word was Marie, which left her flustered. She told him he had to start with the letter A, so he chose apple pie. Marie went next, and since pie ended with E, she used exciting Ipsandrian stories. Kairos remembered that she mentioned this the first night they met, and then suggested that she should visit the castle library sometime, because it was full of things she would love. After that, they continued their game. She laughed at him because he'd only been naming sweets, but Kairos pointed out that she had only been mentioning agricultural goods. The game continued, and Marie had no idea when she blurted out, Kairos. He then leaned in closer and teased her, which made her change the word to kiss. But that only made her more embarrassed. Eventually, Kairos turned the tables on her. Mia would interrupt them and let them know that the tea was cold. She poured it for the couple, and drinking it, they experienced instant regret. It was too bitter, so Kairos suggested they mask the flavor with milk and sugar. But Mio could barely stand the two of them, saying they didn't require any more sweetness. Kairos and Marie then went red as Mio left them to enjoy their moment. Kairos flopped onto his bed, hugging his pillow, as he daydreamed about Marie. Mio suddenly interrupted, catching him off guard. She asked how it felt seeing Marie after 4 days. "I love her," he blurted, but that wasn't what Mio was asking. She reminded Kairos that he said to give Marie the best hospitality and everything she deserved. Her time in the Baron's household had been terrible, leaving her convinced she was ugly and undeserving of love. But Kairos wanted Marie to feel worthy of every luxury she desired. Still, Mio believed Marie would likely avoid such luxuries. As an abandoned child, Mio was lucky enough to be taken in by Lady Lulu and later promoted to Grand Chamberlain through Kairos' help. Because of this, Mio understood Marie's feelings, what it was like to go from a life of oppression to a resident of a gleaming castle. It created a fear that one day, all this ephemeral magic would suddenly disappear. But Kairos said it wouldn't. Marie was smart and beautiful, and Lulu truly saw Mio as a daughter. He assured her none of this was magic. It was real. Mio was moved by Kairos' words, asking him to continue believing in the truth of these commonplace things. Kairos would have to leave the castle for business again, so he asked Mio to ensure Marie was comfortable, and granted her permission to review personal matters, something Mio had been eagerly waiting for. Kairos then wondered if it was okay for Marie to be so adorable. He started rambling all about Marie's looks and personality and started rolling all over his bed with his body pillow. But Mio felt he wasn't in a place to speak of others in that regard. Afterwards, she left Kairos to get some sleep. Now that she had permission to redirect personnel, it was time for her to take action. The next morning, she brought an appropriate quantity of breakfast for Marie. When Marie was done eating, Mio joined her for some tea, something Marie had always wanted. Marie asked if this meant Kairos had left, but Mio told her no, and that Ilza and Hannah were switched to serve him. Marie did feel they would be happier serving real nobility. Topo then entered with his latest delicious experiment, a blanc-mange made from almond flour and fresh milk. One taste and everyone was hooked. He began leaving to prepare more treats for the castle, but Marie called back to him. She mentioned that Ilza and Hannah didn't really like milk, recalling when she had once asked for milk, and they responded by saying it was just a novel way to drink tea. Hearing this, Mio's face grew dark. However, Marie asked the chef to try to make the dessert without milk, which he agreed to. While Mio and Marie were walking through the hallway, Thomas bumped into them. Mio asked about the box he was carrying, and he said it was from Marie's family, the house of Baron Shatteron. Furious, Mio yelled, "Thomas, Why did you bring that here? The box suddenly dropped on his leg, revealing all of Marie's tattered belongings. All items from House Shatteron were to be inspected by Marie's attendants. But Mio hadn't done that. Thomas then revealed Ilza and Hannah were the ones who looked over it, and said it was okay. Marie picked up a letter, and as she read it, her mother's harsh voice echoed in her mind. Then, they heard evil laughs coming from a room nearby. Mio quickly dashed off to reprimand the culprits. Meanwhile, Marie picked up the pages of her favorite storybook. Even though the bindings were frail, she was sure she had to put it away carefully. Soon, Mio showed up with Ilza and Hannah, tossing them on the ground. Even though they were all maids, Ilza and Hannah felt superior because they served the third prince in the palace. Mio didn't hesitate to remind them that she was the head servant of Granado Castle. Ilza and Hannah continued their taunts, ridiculing Mio's demotion to serving a poor baron's daughter. Their insults grew harsher, labeling the countess, referring to Lulu, a barbarian, a former prostitute lacking a surname. At last, Mio snapped, sharply calling them imbeciles. Before Ilza could make a move, Mio seized her arm and slammed her to the ground. Her eyes quickly shifted to Hannah, who was next in line for a beating. After Mio knocked their lights out, she offered her deepest apologies to Marie. But Marie said it was alright, then asked for some scissors and thread. Later, Marie found Johann in the garden, dressed in new clothes she remade from her old ones, so she wouldn't worry about getting them dirty. Johann pointed out that there were plenty of servants' shoes she could have worn instead. As they started planting the seedlings, Marie realized something for the first time. All the hard labor she did for her family felt like nothing, because she truly loved growing delicious vegetables. Johann then apologized for being brusque to her before. Considering she was the Count's lady, he didn't want to cause her trouble. After all, he was both a servant and a foreigner. But Marie said it didn't matter. To her, they were all like family. Thomas then came by to inform her about Kairos' departure. Marie ran happily to her fiancé, but he was utterly exhausted after staying up all night. Seeing Ilza and Hannah tied up, Mio asked Kairos to send the dead weight back to Prince Ruifan. The maids pointed out that they were Ruifan's recommendations, and they were told they would be Kairos' concubines soon. They blamed Marie for their situation, saying she was nothing more than her dead sister's replacement. They jeered that the Count would be mocked for drawing the short straw, and called Marie an ugly wench. Kairos glared at them and warned, "Try saying that again." He asked if they thought they were more beautiful than Marie, or more honorable, or more clever. What could he possibly love about them? He couldn't find a single reason. He then had Thomas take them away. Marie apologized to Kairos, worried he'd become a laughingstock because of her. He then gently plucked a flower and tucked it behind her ear. "You are beautiful," he said. Marie blushed as he praised her red hair, star-like eyes, and innocent smile. Just as their lips were about to meet, Mio interrupted, reminding Kairos they were out of time. Johann and another lady appeared, teasing the master about how close he was. Marie blushed deeply, embarrassed that they'd witnessed the entire moment. Lord Kairos was going to the royal palace for a ceremony and would be away for 10 days. When he returned, they would begin arrangements for their betrothal ceremony. Still, Marie feared making her fiancé a laughingstock. Later on, she received a confusing invitation from Prince Ruifan to attend a festival. The letter stated the people eagerly awaited the day, and if she didn't show up, they would despair and their distress would span generations. Prince Ruifan was the third prince and captain of the Royal Knights. He also had quite an open-hearted personality. Mio informed Marie that the prince expected her to attend, since the letter had arrived just before the event. This only heightened Marie's fear. The following day, a chariot from the Royal Knights arrived to escort her. They arrived at the military fortress of the Kingdom of Dils, the Royal Knights' stronghold. Marie trembled. Am I going to be executed in public? Since it was the royal palace, she would at least be with Kairos. Mio tried to calm her, saying Ruifan likely wanted to apologize for Ilza and Hannah, but that only deepened Marie's fear. Mio then pointed out that Prince Ruifan probably had amusing plans, since he was the host. Things like scary monsters, rain of onions from above, or a pool full of jelly. Regardless, she assured Marie that the prince wasn't a villain, so they went on to enjoy themselves. The whole place was lively. It had been 50 years since the war, and the world was at peace. So, this sort of excitement was good entertainment. Marie received a snack from Mio, as she thought about going to visit Ruifan. Mio told her that it was likely the prince wasn't here at all. She didn't really understand what went on in the prince's head. Marie wondered if an event like this was small for someone of the royal family, but Mio said it was quite rare. However, what concerned her was that word of this event never reached Granado Castle. "I have a bad feeling about this," Mio said while crushing a coconut with her bare hands. Suddenly, she spotted Ruifan moving between the crowd. Mio decided to go investigate and told Marie to wait here. Marie wanted to follow, but Mio warned that the prince might be planning to appear and scare her. So, Marie was to remain in the same spot until she returned. After Mio left, a shopkeeper complained that Marie was standing in his way. She muttered a quick "sorry," then noticed a flyer about an apple peeling contest. Excited, she wanted to join, but the vendor thought noble girls didn't usually touch knives. Marie became worried that this would shame Kairos' name. She still needed a knife to peel an apple, and the man assured that his were delicious. If Marie could peel an apple within the time limit, he would give her an entire box of them. Just before she could start, a silver-haired man snatched the apple from her hands. Marie tried to get it back, but he kept playing with her and eventually took a bite out of it. She was shocked when the vendor referred to him as His Highness. As Marie realized who he was, Mio came running back, revealing it was a trap all along. The man then introduced himself as Ruifan Sandalkia Diltz, third prince of the land and captain of the Royal Knights. Most of all, Kairos' dear friend. Mio complained that Ruifan was so late that she should have left with Marie. He apologized and called her darling, but she told him to stop calling her that. He then invited Marie to dine with him at the noble's salon. The mention of nobles stirred memories of Ilza and Hannah, prompting her to decline, saying she wasn't hungry. But he explained that the two maids were gone and apologized for recommending them without properly knowing their personalities. The idea of a fancy salon was unsettling for Marie, so he suggested a swordsmanship contest instead. Marie hesitated, but Mio reminded her not to force herself. She knew Marie disliked competitions. Ruifan freaked out, asking why Marie didn't like them. Because they were aristocratic pastimes. Scared still, Marie agreed to go watch with him, which quickly made him happy. The prince boasted he could beat anyone with a sword, and Kairos had once complimented his skills, having said, "The sword is the only place you show genius." Man, the prince is so stupid he doesn't understand what a backhanded compliment is. They reached the arena just as the swordsmanship semifinals began. Ruifan smiled at the crowd's excitement. He recalled dozing off last year and Kairos pinching his cheeks to wake him. Marie, enjoying the moment, noticed how fond he was of Kairos. Mio then decided to go get some food, because she wanted to visit all the stalls. So Ruifan teased her, "Your stomach is a separate dimension as always," allowing her to go have as much as she wanted. After that, a knight clad in black armor stepped onto the stage, and the prince claimed he was an impressive warrior. When Marie didn't react, he asked if she was always like this with Kairos. She grew uneasy, and so Ruifan smiled, saying she was different from the others, adding that he had known Kairos for years. Marie recalled that they had been in the same year at school, which the prince confirmed. They actually fought the first time they met. As the duke's son, Kairos was right below Ruifan in terms of rank at school. But Kairos told him, "Stop judging people on their rank." Angered, the prince punched Kairos, but Kairos returned the favor. The memory made Ruifan burst into laughter, though Marie questioned whether it was really that funny. At that moment, the black-armored warrior won his fight by disarming his opponent with a single strike. Ruifan felt he was holding back, and pointed out that the knight cared for his foes. Even so, Marie didn't react the way he expected. He asked if she didn't find things like this dashing. Most girls would have squealed with delight, but Marie didn't see much charm and strength through battle. He then questioned, weren't strength and reliability the most attractive things in men? However, Marie was frightened. She felt like one day, the sword would be pointed at her. The prince couldn't stand how negative she was, so he asked why she became Kairos' fiancé. But all Marie could think was, "I'm just my older sister's replacement." Right then, the final match began between the Black Knight and the Green Knight. Their swords clashed, and in a blink, the Black Knight won. Just before receiving his trophy, he halted the referee to check on his opponent. Watching that, Marie felt like she might enjoy seeing more of his matches. Suddenly, Mio returned with a bag of food. As she munched, she casually told Marie the Black Knight was Kairos. Mio explained that warrior's swordsmanship and footwork were just like Kairos's. To prove it, she screamed like a fangirl, calling out his name and saying how dashing he was. The crowd became curious, asking the warrior to take off his helmet. He took it off, revealing that it was actually Kairos, making the crowd cheer and the ladies scream. Mio then explained that every male noble in the kingdom of Dilts was made to hold the sword at least once. Kairos had trained since childhood to defend himself properly. Ruifan was also happy to see Marie's expression, and she realized that he knew all along. Afterwards, she noticed a long line of women and asked what was going on. One of them explained they were hoping to get close to Kairos, now that his fiancé had passed away. Naturally, Marie doubted anyone would ever see someone as useless as her replacing her sister. The women started insulting Kairos, saying he had barbarian blood and a difficult personality. Hearing this, Marie became upset and pushed herself past the ladies. They stopped her, asking who she thought she was. And then she replied, "I am betrothed. I'm an associate of the Count's." Mio then quickly stepped in, offering to hold back the ladies while Marie went ahead. Marie stormed off, furious at how those women spoke about Kairos. He was kind. He even smiled at her so happily. She couldn't understand why they mocked him. The only reason she could imagine was that he had shown interest in a losing prospect like herself. Meanwhile, Kairos questioned Ruifan, asking why he had been made to join the competition in the first place. Marie quietly entered the room, and with them noticing her, she congratulated Kairos on winning the competition. He couldn't believe it was her. He thought he was hallucinating. Kairos shook as he asked, "Are you the real Marie in the flesh? The one who's a living miracle?" Ruifan explained that he invited her to show how dashing Kairos was. But she didn't seem impressed at all. She disliked brutality and noble traditions. And Kairos actually had no intention of forcing anyone's values on her. Marie's wishes were his only priority. Man, he's a really great guy. But Ruifan noticed she didn't seem happy about that, and pointed out that she was only replacing her sister in a political marriage. The prince claimed Marie would have gotten engaged, no matter the kind of man she faced. She couldn't find the words to respond, leading Ruifan to assume she didn't love Kairos. Kairos told him to stop, but when Ruifan heard they were engaged, he was happy, especially since Kairos had turned down so many noble women. However, Ruifan kept mocking Marie, causing Kairos to grab him harshly. To this, Ruifan just laughed, saying the old Kairos would have hit him by now. Though Kairos had never been the type to strike first. Ruifan called him a coward, saying he was scared and had never beaten him in a fight, and Kairos replied that he was just letting the prince have the glory. They then drew their swords and clashed, leaving Marie frightened. Sheathing their blades, Ruifan decided they would take their fight to the arena, and Kairos vowed to make him apologize for insulting Marie. After the prince left, Marie pleaded with Kairos to make peace with him. She called herself timid and foolish, but couldn't bear others mocking Kairos because of her. Tears filled her eyes as she apologized for being a burden. Kairos gently wiped her tears and said Ruifan mocked him only because of his one-sided love. Despite appearances, he knew the prince was full of passion, but even so, he was set on defeating him and making him take back every insult. Marie was grateful Kairos got angry for her, but said she'd reclaim her honor on her own. She hated hearing people call her fiancé a coward. This got Kairos to chuckle, and before heading into battle, he asked for a good luck kiss, which left her stunned. So he only kissed her hand before setting off to face his best friend. As they took their places on stage, Kairos and Ruifan urged each other to wear their helmets, mocking one another in the process. Then threw the helmets to the ground. The match began, and the two friends were going at each other's necks, setting off sparks as their swords clashed. Mio saw the two men were evenly matched as she watched intensely with Marie. Eventually, Ruifan disarmed Kairos, who continued to evade the attacks. Marie pleaded for Kairos not to be beaten by the prince, and as Kairos disarmed Ruifan, the prince started attacking with his fists, although this wasn't allowed. Kairos then punched back, and through an intense hand-to-hand brawl, Kairos was eventually able to land a powerful uppercut that sent Ruifan flying away. With Kairos named the victor, Marie cheered, calling out his name. Her voice echoed awkwardly in the silence, leaving her embarrassed. Then, the crowd erupted in celebration. Kairos then called Marie down to the stage. When she arrived, he lifted her into his arms, and before the crowd, announced their engagement and vowed they would serve the country with all they had. Murmurs erupted. People wondered who Baron Shatteron even was. Kairos told Marie that the people wanted to see her face, but she felt she wasn't beautiful enough to match what the people expected. She was scared. He then drew her closer and said, "It's all right. You are a far more wonderful woman than you know." No matter what came their way, he swore to stay by her side. Marie was scared of many things, but with him, she felt brave enough to face them. The crowd cheered happily and congratulated them on their engagement. Later on, Marie returned to the vendor who was selling apples earlier. She was still eager to join the peeling contest. As the man handed her an apple, it got snatched from her hands again, but this time by Kairos. He wanted to try with her and began peeling the apple as fast as he could. Marie asked about Ruifan, and just then, the prince appeared behind them. Kairos handed him an apple and told him to get to work quickly. Turning to Marie, he asked if there were any tips for peeling, and she explained. She was quite good at peeling things. After all, her life depended on leaving as much of the edible parts as possible. Kairos admired that, but Ruifan interrupted, bringing up that Marie still didn't like him. But still, just being with Marie made Kairos' whole day sparkle. Just thinking about growing closer to her filled Kairos with so much joy, it overwhelmed him. Until the day they were truly married, he was sure he'd keep loving Marie until he died. Marie was moved by his words. Still, Ruifan insisted it didn't make him any more dashing. As he turned to go, Marie stopped him and told him she wanted to hear more stories about Kairos' good qualities. She realized the prince just wanted to praise his best friend, and that's why she'd been invited. Ruifan then apologized for earlier, but when he bit into the apple, his teeth almost broke. It was a fake. Kairos burst out laughing. The furious prince then yelled that he'd one day have them both dragged off for mocking royalty, and stormed away, leaving Marie amused. Ending the day, Mia would have to stay behind because she had a message for the master. So, she said Kairos' valet, Wolfgang, would accompany Marie in her stead. Before she left, Marie thanked Kairos for showing her his brave side. He admitted he'd never actually beaten Ruifan before, but to Marie, Kairos was truly strong. Kairos believed that was only because she was with him. Everything he was, he owed to her, and he'd do anything for her sake. Just before stepping into the cage, Marie stopped and kissed Kairos' cheek. He froze, wide-eyed, and she quickly turned away, face in her hands, and hurried inside. In 2 months, she would marry the person her sister was betrothed to. It was a political marriage, but one day, like a couple bound by love, she hoped she would find happiness. Just the two of them. Meanwhile, Kairos confirmed the letter he got from Mio was truly from the House of Shatteron. After reading, he wondered if Baron Shatteron and his wife were truly Marie's birth parents. Seeing how abusive and inconsiderate the letters from Marie's parents were, Kairos asked Mio to investigate the matter. A month had passed since the night's festival that struck like a storm. Marie enjoyed the lovely weather on the balcony, feeling today would be a beautiful day. Wolfgang knocked, asking if she was still awake. Marie opened the door and greeted him, teasing that she had won today. Cecily then dived at Marie excitedly, and Wolfgang apologized for his granddaughter's behavior, explaining that she was still an apprentice. Cecily then showed Marie the buns Tunica had made for her, and Marie smiled, admitting they looked cute and suited her perfectly. Cecily offered to style Marie's hair, because since Mio was away, she would act as her attendant for the day. After that, Wolfgang asked what Marie wanted to wear. Soon, she appeared in a stunning blue gown. Wolfgang praised her beauty, adding that if Kairos were here, he would have embraced her before realizing it. Hearing this, Marie blushed hard. Lately, she felt so strange. When she thought of Lord Kairos, her heart would race. While Cecily dragged Marie, urging her to hurry up, Topo asked where she was rushing to, since lunch wasn't ready yet. But they told him today was the day Kairos would return. Moving on, they bumped into Johann, who gave Marie some beautiful flowers. Moments later, Kairos was welcomed by the attendants in the castle. Marie ran to him, offering him the damask roses in hand, and asked if Kairos liked them. Kairos laughed, noting it wasn't for him, but an accessory for her, saying she was like a present for him, comparing Marie to a flower personified. Kairos admitted he nearly embraced her without realizing it, and Marie's face started steaming. He reached for her hand, though Marie thought he meant the flowers. Instead, he gently drew her close, wrapping her in his warm embrace. Flustered, she told him not to tease her like that, but he then smiled and tucked a flower into her hair, saying that she had grown even more beautiful. Still, she was flush, thinking he was just teasing. At night, she thought they would have dinner together, but Kairos was already gone again. The betrothal ceremony was coming together nicely, but Marie was still nervous. Aside from helping her father and the things she learned in school, she didn't know anything else. She picked her favorite storybook from her drawer. She usually read it when she felt nervous, but when she opened the book, the pages fell out. So she gathered them in her hands, hugging them tightly. Soon after, she asked Wolfgang to lead her to the place where she could bind the book, and along the way, she noticed some lights and went to investigate, only to meet Lulu. And mentioning the book she wanted to repair, Lulu welcomed her inside. She marveled at the sight of the huge library. It was like a dream since Marie loved books. Lulu explained that she was here for research because her spelling in Diltson was still shaky. Marie noticed Lulu was writing a letter, and Lulu then explained Kairos was so busy, he asked her to help out. Marie then offered to help write for her, and immediately, Lulu's eyes lit up, accepting Marie's help. At some point, Lulu offered to handle the letters for Ipsandros, but Marie said she could also do the Ipsandrine ones, surprising Lulu. Marie's love for Ipsandrine stories had taught her to read and write Ipsian for daily conversations. When Wolfgang showed Lulu the book Marie came to mend, she felt nostalgic. Marie smiled, recalling how her older sister once read it to her. She added that Anastasia had learned Ipsian from their late grandmother. However, Marie would become somber, remembering her father often called her grandmother an eccentric layabout for studying foreign languages. He used to shout, "Women don't need academics," and claimed his mother ended up alone because of her academic pursuits. Lulu responded that a clever woman who knew foreign languages would be quite the catch for merchants and nobility. But Ipsian wasn't very practical unless you were engaged in trade with them. When Lulu mentioned Flarian and Shinen, Marie cut in, claiming she spoke both. She was self-taught. Lulu's surprise grew. Marie explained most tenant farmers were immigrants, so foreign languages were necessary for managing things. When Lulu commented that such duties must have been vital for a baron, Marie, flustered, insisted her father handled the planning, while she only helped with smaller tasks. Still, she admitted she loved writing letters. Even though she wrote on someone else's behalf, it allowed her to converse with someone as an equal. As she wrote the invitation letter, Lulu complimented her beautiful handwriting and asked Marie to sign it in her name, since she was the one who came up with the lovely words. Hearing this, Marie's eyes filled with tears. Lulu confessed she hadn't expected much from Marie at first, yet Marie was the first woman Kairos proposed to, and Lulu always thought she'd support Marie where she lacked. Now, she felt joy, knowing Marie was marrying her son, and she truly loved her. Lulu called herself an imperfect mother, but hoped to get along well with Marie. Marie apologized, explained that wasn't what she thought at all, but Lulu told her it was fine and allowed Marie to cry as much as she wanted. So Marie then let it all out. She wasn't sad at all, but for some reason, her tears wouldn't stop, and she cried like a baby. That rainy night, Kairos returned and was welcomed by Mio. She asked for a moment of his time and mentioned she was done with the investigation. The findings confirmed Marie was truly the daughter of Baron Shatteron and his wife. She added that noble family records showed no sign of adoption or remarriage. Even so, Kairos still had doubts. Marie's younger brother was born at home, while both she and Anastasia were delivered at the hospital. Mia was told Marie's parents had wept with joy then. Kairos asked if a hospital mix-up was possible, but Mio assured him it was highly unlikely. He couldn't believe the ones hurling vile words at Marie were truly her parents. Mio then added that if parental love were truly unconditional, she herself wouldn't be here. She then gave Kairos a letter that had come in this morning. It said Marie's father was sick, and he ordered her to return. This was a clear threat. Mio feared Marie would go home right away if she read it, so Kairos thought about what he could do to protect her. He wondered if keeping her locked up in the castle would truly make her happy, and soon overheard his mother giving Marie lectures on being a proper noble lady. Fearing Marie was being bullied by her future mother-in-law, he burst in, angrily asking what his mother was doing, but when he saw Marie's joy at his presence, he fell silent. Lulu then requested Kairos to be Marie's practice partner for meeting royalty and other nobles. Furious, Kairos reminded his mother that he didn't want to force Marie to go through any of that, and said she hadn't ever debuted in aristocratic society. But Lulu assured him it was fine, and that Marie had the aptitude for this, citing her posture was nice. Kairos looked distraught. He wanted Marie to be able to dress in beautiful things, and to help her live a happy, peaceful life. Cecily then ran to him, saying Marie's curtsy was really stylish. Marie shined as she performed a perfect curtsy, leaving Kairos amazed. Lulu then mentioned Marie had also written every thank you letter, but he grew upset at how hard his mother was making her work. So she silenced him. reminding him that love and overprotectiveness were not the same thing. She told Kairos women were not baby birds and cautioned him to never cage Marie, but to let her fly. Kairos then praised Marie's curtsy, saying it was truly lovable, and she lit up with joy at his words. Her smile made Kairos recall the moment they first met. She smiled the same way then. Lulu then proposed a tea break for everyone, but before she could go, Kairos stopped Marie and gave her the letter from her father. He feared she might return home alone, but Marie quickly said the letter was a lie. She recognized her father's handwriting and doubted someone on their deathbed had written it. She then asked if more demanding letters had arrived, but Kairos was at a loss for words. She thanked him, understanding the letters contained cruel words and that he was only trying to shield her from them. Since hiring workers cost money, Marie believed her father only wanted to dump work on her and could care less about seeing her. She believed her parents must have hated her, given the way they always yelled at her. Before, she thought it was normal, since she'd been made to believe she wasn't lovely. But Kairos could see the change in her now. He told her she had grown so strong, and Marie replied it was because of him and everyone in the palace. Without thinking, he suddenly rushed in and hugged her, but then quickly stepped back, apologizing, and the air between them got a little tense and flusteredness. The next day, Tunica and Cecily complimented Marie's lovely dress. Kairos tried to compliment her as well, saying she looked adorable, but Marie was so startled, he wondered if she hated him. She apologized, saying she wasn't used to hearing such words from a gentleman like himself. He then apologized for making her feel nervous. Soon after, Topo entered carrying a large tray of blueberry tarts. When he complimented Marie's dress, she thanked him cheerfully, and Kairos couldn't see why his situation was different. After all, Topo was also a man. Kairos wondered if it was because he had been away for so long. He tried to tell Marie he would stay by her side from now on, but her focus was on Mio. While crushed, he listened as Mio requested a leave of absence, saying she wanted to visit somewhere remote. Marie felt down about Mio leaving so soon, but Mio said she had someone she wished to see. With the betrothal ceremony approaching, Mio asked Marie to spend some private time bonding with Kairos. Later at night, Kairos showed Mio a pile of letters addressed to Baron Shatteron and his wife. In these letters, he wrote all about Marie's lovely qualities. But Mio didn't understand what Kairos was doing with himself. He told her if she happened to run into the Baron, he wanted Mio to clobber him. He then gave her some travel money and told her to use the palace carriage, adding that she should bring at least one attendant along. Mio remarked she was strong enough, but Kairos didn't want her to take the role of the villain. The next day, she brought Thomas with her. He thought it was a bad idea since she might be visiting her sweetheart, but she replied if that were true, it would actually be bad. Thomas asked if it was a friend, questioning whether Mio even had friends, and hearing that, she swiftly threatened to send him to paradise. She then told him he was here to ward off bandits, and explained that a tragic accident had happened here 2 months earlier. Thomas figured Mio was heading toward the Shatteron lands. She then gave him a letter where the contents explained he wanted her to come home because their elder sister was already back. Cedric was Marie's younger brother, who was turning 6 this year. Thomas thought that Anastasia had already died when her carriage fell from a cliff, but Mio said, according to further investigation, Anastasia had been attacked by bandits on the flatlands, and as they fled along the river, the carriage overturned in the muddy waters. However, Mio thought something was up, since rescuing anyone in that situation should have been impossible. So, Thomas wondered what the letter could possibly be about. In the Shatteron Manor, Lady Elvira had gone mad, combing the hair of who she claimed to be Anastasia. Mio detailed the report released by the driver on Lady Anastasia's carriage to Castle Granado 2 months ago. They were told that near the royal capital, she was set upon by bandits, and while she desperately tried to escape, she fell into the river, which had swollen with rain. The driver tried to rescue her, but the wounds inflicted by the bandits made it impossible. The carriage was destroyed, and everything it carried was stolen. Anastasia's body hasn't been found, and her chances of survival were dismal. Thomas looked at the note received from their little brother that read, "Big sister returned home." He feared Marie would distance herself from Kairos if Anastasia were really alive. Mio commented that someone had to play the villain, but luckily, Kairos forbade from using violent methods. Still, she claimed there could be unexpected dangers still lurking. A few days after Mio left, Kairos decided to be Marie's attendant. Since Mio felt closer to the maids from spending more time with them, he wanted to spend more time now. Marie's face turned red, as he did her hair quite well for the first time. She panicked when Kairos noted it was time for her dress, thinking he wanted to dress her. Before he could suggest one, Cecily suddenly drop-kicked him in the back, yelling that he broke his promise. She was supposed to dress Marie, and she called Kairos a lecher, believing he just wanted to touch Marie. Wolfgang apologized for his granddaughter's behavior and explained that Kairos' eagerness probably made Marie nervous. The next day, Kairos asked Marie to go on a date with him. Wolfgang had prepared a big gift for him in the royal capital, though knowing his friend, he didn't expect much. However, Marie happily agreed to join. She lit up at the sight of the town. Kairos praised her outfit, and when she thanked him, he asked her to call him by name, not title. With time before meeting up with Ruifan, he offered his hand, suggesting they look around. He didn't want their special date to be ruined. Blushing, Marie took his hand. Meanwhile, Mio and Thomas had finally entered Baron Shadowron's territory. Thomas had imagined it to be a small, dried-up village, but it looked like a wealthy land. However, Mio commented that the land hadn't been maintained very well upon closer look. They arrived at Marie's old school, where Mio acted like a sweet girl from the royal capital. Thomas was left speechless. Still, Mio convinced the man there, saying she wanted to meet a student she could talk to casually. So, he told her about Karina Burton, who had left mid-term for work in the capital. With this information, Mio went to Karina's mother, posing as a detective from the capital. She explained Karina might have gotten caught up in a certain incident, and she needed to collect Karina's school ID. Thomas worried Mio may have gone too far, but she claimed she didn't lie. Still, Thomas remarked she was reckless, and that the big lies were just starting. Before heading to the Shadowron residence, Thomas asked if they should review their plan. However, Mio told him to improvise. At the gate, he admired the residence, but Mio noted it was poorly managed and hadn't looked this bad before. As she opened the gate and went in, they got stopped by an old maid who wondered if they were debt collectors. With sweet innocence, Mio introduced herself as Karina and Thomas as her fiancé, Henry. She claimed to be friends with Marie, explaining they went to the same school and said they came to fetch something for her. The old maid then led them to the shed where Marie once stayed. She said Marie worked hard because she wasn't pretty and had no chance at marriage. Compared to Anastasia, the old woman claimed Marie was impertinent and completely unlovable. Only her grandmother, Lady Sasha, cared for her. Suddenly, Cedric rushed in, hoping to see his sister Marie. Baron Shadowron then came, reprimanding his boy. Thomas tried to hide his face from the Baron, but Mio quickly introduced her fake identity to him. After hearing why they came, the Baron decided to take them to the mansion, laughing as he said the shed couldn't possibly be Marie's room. On the way, the Baron asked if Mio had ever found Marie a bit gloomy, but she replied otherwise, saying Marie was cheerful and everyone loved her. He then asked what Mio had come to pick up, and she told him it was a girl's secret. They entered a room, but Mio quickly saw it belonged to Anastasia. She noted the lack of bookshelves as strange, since Marie loved studying. Calling out the trick, she warned the Baron, so he then led them to a study, insisting this was Marie's room. Mio then opened the windows and heard Elvira's voice in the next room. Thomas's face went pale as he heard the lady doting over Anastasia. Soon after, the Baron returned, asking them to kindly leave because his family needed to go out. On their way out, he told Mio to inform Marie to come get any item she needed herself. Mio explained that Marie was too busy with preparations for her marriage. But the Baron remarked if the ceremony hadn't happened, then technically Marie wasn't engaged. His expression went from sweet to evil, as he said Marie still belonged to him, and he wasn't about to let anyone steal her. Lady Elvira then approached them, and seeing the guests, she offered to get tea, but her husband told her the guests were already leaving. So she then went to bid Anastasia goodbye. As the Shadowrons left, Mia waited a bit before launching herself back into the mansion, while using Thomas as a jump pad. She then threw down a rope for him to climb up. They slipped into Elvira's room and noticed a figure behind the bed curtains. Believing it was Anastasia, she pulled the curtains aside, only to find a lifeless doll that looked just like her. Thomas assumed Elvira had lost her mind, but Mio disagreed, believing Elvira was fully sane and that the doll was likely her work. She pointed out its human hair and the dress Anastasia wore during the incident. Noticing the inconsistencies in the police report, she concluded the carriage driver must have lied. Back at the royal capital, Marie enjoyed some Ipsandrian treats. Kairos used to eat a lot of these back when he was a student. Marie thought it was strange, thinking of him as a young boy. Afterwards, he bought her dessert. Marie fumbled with the ice cream man, who teased her playfully. She finally got it, but Kairos was still overwhelmed by her cuteness. From there, they went to a store that sold various goods from every country. Marie offered to buy a present for him, but seeing the price tag left her short of words. Kairos decided to try on all the clothes Marie picked for him and buy them. He started modeling each outfit for her, and she couldn't help but be captivated by his dazzling charm. Kairos even tried on a school uniform, saying he would wear it to cheer her up when she felt down. While he was still changing, Marie slipped out to find an accessory for him. She found a good item, but was startled when she heard her sister's voice calling her. Marie turned back, but saw a man asking her out to a cafe. Thinking he was trying to get customers, she declined. So the man grabbed her arm forcefully. Marie misread his words, thinking he was forcing himself to compliment her, but she still didn't want to go. Scared, she yelled for Kairos to save her, and he appeared immediately, lifting the man into the air and warning him not to touch a lady without permission. The man then ran away completely scared. Marie apologized for the fuss, and Kairos asked if she didn't notice the man was flirting, believing it must have happened often. Marie confessed she never realized. Most boys at school only laughed at her. He couldn't believe this, saying she was beautiful even without adornments. Of course, Marie thought of herself as ugly and said her clothes were always ragged. Hearing this, Kairos believed Baron Shatteron must have kept Marie in tattered clothes to hide her beauty from herself and everyone else. Enraged, he refused to let the Baron take her back. Kairos grabbed Marie's hand, vowing to never let go. She was captivated by his charm, and Kairos' hand felt more comforting to her, unlike anyone else's. Unbeknownst to them, though, someone was watching by an alleyway as they left. Continuing their date, Marie would go around buying gifts for people at the castle. With so many items on their hands, they decided to drop them off at the carriage. Afterwards, they headed to a shop where Kairos was to meet Ruifan. The shop sparkled with so many beautiful items, and there, they were welcomed by Giovanni. Kairos was informed that Ruifan was taking a nap upstairs, so he went to meet with him while Marie waited. Marie's eyes caught some gleaming jewel fragments that came from high-quality jewels. As Kairos' guest, Giovanni offered to give her as many as she liked, which left her shocked. Then, Marie couldn't help but stare at the green fragments, which reminded her of Kairos' lovely eyes. She asked for the price, and after seeing she could afford it, Marie decided to buy some. Suddenly, a strange man showed up behind her, making her wonder if this was one of those flirting situations again. Marie told the man she was with someone, but he kept prying into the matter, asking if they had kissed. She then blurted out they would likely do so soon. Kairos happened to hear that and was overwhelmed by her cuteness. Then, he outed the strange man as Ruifan, who finally took off his costume. Ruifan decided they should finish up the matter he called Kairos for. He would open a box, revealing an exquisite pink diamond with an extremely red hue, noting they wouldn't find another of this size. During the war, it had even been used to negotiate alliances with other nations. Ruifan then offered it to Kairos for 80 million euro. If the royals had worn it, it would cause an outrage. But if Ruifan said it was a gift for Count Granado, no one would complain. He explained to Marie that the Granado family's wealth was more than that of the royal family. The highway Margrave Granado built, his tax checkpoints, and Kairos' and Lulu's trade skills all brought the House of Granado great wealth. Ruifan added that being nobility wasn't enough these days, and most distinguished families would fall quickly, just like Baron Shatteron's. Marie knew he wasn't trying to be harsh. After all, wealth was a weapon used to protect people and other things. So, she vowed as a member of the House of Granado to never neglect her studies. Ruifan lowered the jewel's price, revealing Kairos sought a shade that matched Marie's hair. He had planned it as a surprise for their betrothal, but Marie thought her hair was something people usually disliked and avoided. Kairos humbly thanked Ruifan, leaving his friend a bit flustered. Ruifan then mentioned it would take a few days to make the jewel into a ring. On the ride home, Marie expressed her delight after hearing Kairos search for a jewel to match her hair color. She had always thought Kairos was only being considerate to her, but now she had a better understanding of his feelings. She then presented the ribbon she bought as a gift for him. Her hands trembled, unsure if Kairos would like it, but he took it and tied it around his hair, and she complimented how dashing he looked. After, she brought out the emerald fragments, pointing out that she simply thought it matched the color of his eyes. And seeing his eyes, she only wanted to make those emeralds her own. Feeling hot, Marie opened the windows to get some fresh air, and while looking out, she caught the sight of someone that immediately reminded her of Anastasia. She tried reaching out as the carriage hit a bump, but Kairos quickly pulled her back. Marie admitted she loved when he held her hands, despite her insecurity about their size and plainness. But Kairos found them charming, saying he loved holding them dearly. He drew Marie into a warm embrace, telling her to push him away if she only loved his hands. But she felt content, until a warped voice echoed in her mind, telling her to trade places. Suddenly, Marie saw herself in tattered clothes, and Anastasia before her, stating that Marie was in her spot. Marie trembled as her sister yelled for her to trade places. Seeing Anastasia with Kairos, Marie felt this was how things were supposed to be. But then she got a cold feeling. Kairos noticed Marie had passed out and quickly told the driver to rush to a doctor. At a young age, Anastasia would take care of Marie whenever she was feeling ill. With their parents away, she would read Marie's favorite book to her. The two laughed together while enjoying the story. Lady Sasha then stormed in, reprimanding Anastasia for entering Marie's room. Anna said she was only trying to make her sister feel better, but their grandmother scolded Anna, saying her translation of the book was incomplete, and she needed to learn properly for Marie's sake as well. After dismissing Anna, Sasha told Marie to ignore her sister's reading and study the words correctly. She called Marie the brightest in the household, and educating her was the most efficient choice. Sasha intended for Marie to master several languages by the time she was 6. While trying to read the story, Marie felt cold and longed for her sister, who sat outside her door. Marie awoke to see Kairos watching over her. He said she had collapsed from a fever, and they were resting in a small room near the castle gates. He added that he hadn't intruded from the maids changing her clothing. Marie realized she had slept nearly half a day and felt guilty Kairos hadn't rested. But he admitted he couldn't sleep from the worry. Bringing her soup, it reminded Marie of childhood days when Anastasia used to feed her. Without thinking, she opened her mouth, and Kairos fed her before she even noticed. As he passed her the tray, Marie wondered when she had started eating alone, perhaps after her grandmother's death. Kairos also offered her some biscuits, and it pulled her back to the time when her mother's kindness vanished after her grandmother's death. Anastasia would bring her some cookies, but Marie stated that their mother had forbidden her from eating because she was getting too tall. Yet, Anastasia insisted, handing the cookies to her, which Marie enjoyed. Marie suddenly felt a sharp pain in her head while thinking of how Anastasia would be with Kairos if she was alive. Kairos left to get the doctor, but Marie held him back, begging him to stay with her and not wanting to be away from him for a single moment. Marie thought back, wondering when she had begun meeting his gaze so easily. But Kairos had always been watching her. As the morning sun came through, happiness swelled in her chest as she confessed she loved him. In that precious moment, their lips finally touched. Kairos felt joy from her requited love. Still, he wanted to fetch the doctor, asking Marie to remain in bed. But she misunderstood his words and they both became flustered. Marie suddenly heard a thud as Kairos left. She ran out, only to find him sprawled on the ground. Mio soon entered after, explaining he had slipped while skipping the stairs. She then added there was urgent news. A guest awaited him at the reception hall. On their way, Kairos told Marie she needed to be there since it concerned Anastasia. When they arrived, Mio relieved Thomas and restrained the man, Jacob, Anastasia's carriage driver during the accident. Kairos recalled Jacob had left the Bandali Islands years ago to earn money. With a cold voice, Kairos asked, "Did you kill Anastasia Shatteron?" This question left Marie shook. As Mio had thought, Jacob wouldn't talk so easily. So, Johann was brought in, since he was from the Bandali Islands as well. Jacob wondered why he was working in the castle, and Johann explained Count Granado had also suffered insults from the people of the kingdom since his mother was a refugee. He assured Jacob that Kairos called him to compensate for killing Anastasia. Though this shook Marie, she understood this was all to get Jacob to tell the truth. So, Johann continued to persuade Jacob, claiming Kairos might employ him if he revealed everything. As Johann left, Jacob recalled back then his employer was quite excited to get a big job, and he told Jacob to prepare the best carriage. Then, the owner went to meet with Baron Shatteron, showing him how much the carriage would cost. The Baron only agreed to pay half the amount, even though it wasn't enough to cover the costs. How cheap is this guy? After he left, Jacob's boss warned him not to lay a hand on the Baron's daughter, but he found it odd that the Baron didn't care much about providing the best service for her. Later, he would take Anastasia on the carriage and tease her about having played around with a lot of men. However, Anastasia's mechanical reply made him realize she was the type who could only live by following her parents' orders, a doll with nothing more than looks. Jacob would even peep while she took a bath, knowing she couldn't run away no matter what. And he also invaded her privacy while Anastasia tried hard not to react. He suddenly stopped the carriage when they were almost at the capital, insisting that they camp for the night. Anastasia threatened what would happen if he laid a hand on her, but he didn't care. He only drew closer, threatening to defile her. At this point, Mio was fed up and tried snapping his arm for doing something so heinous to Anastasia. Kairos demanded she stop. Then Thomas took over. He questioned where Jacob got the hair and clothes for the doll at the Baron's house. Jacob revealed he took the clothes off while assaulting Anastasia, and in the struggle, she cut off her hair with scissors. After getting the clothes and hair, he sold them to Lady Elvira, who was still in shock from losing her daughter. And to cover his crimes, he destroyed the carriage and lied about being attacked by bandits. However, the truth was that Anastasia fell into the river while trying to get away from him. He swore he didn't kill her, but Marie had heard enough. She blamed him for her sister's death. Then Jacob retorted it was for the best, because Anastasia had some men's clothing in her bags, and he accused her of frolicking with men. Enraged, Marie yelled at him to stop insulting her sister, but Jacob would continue his insults, causing Kairos to knock him out. Afterwards, he comforted a crying Marie and apologized for not regretting Anastasia's death until now. They thought she bullied Marie like her parents did. Kairos believed her death was divine punishment, and mistakenly proposing to her was a good stroke of luck. Marie also thought she should have been the one in that carriage, but her sister went in her place. Kairos wanted to apologize at Anastasia's grave, but there wasn't one, because the Baron believed it would have been a waste. Not only was her funeral terribly plain, but Anastasia's name wasn't even inscribed at the cemetery. Sadly, Marie also didn't know what her sister liked. At some point, a huge gulf had grown between them. Marie, who wore raggedy clothes, could always walk freely outside, while Anastasia was forced to dress up in a tiny enclosed garden, a perfect being who was beloved by all. Marie believed this was why the gods had taken her away. In the end, she blamed herself for being one of the many people who killed Anastasia. Later, Marie and Kairos would pay their respects to Anastasia by a river. The waterway ran all the way to the artisan's quarter at the royal capital. Hearing this, Marie said her sister had always wished to design clothes at the capital, and she could feel her sister's spirit at peace now. After a week, the atmosphere at the castle returned to normal. Marie was sewing Kairos' ribbon, or he held a medicine box, ready to help in case she pricked herself. Lulu couldn't help but think her son had turned into a faithful dog. Marie then tied the ribbon on his hair, and as they complimented each other, Lulu teased them for being so innocent. Afterwards, Marie shared the bracelets she got for everyone at the capital. Mia felt the gift was a waste on her, but Tunica insisted she accepted, leaving Mia with no other choice. Marie thanked her for all she did, saying she loved her, and hearing these words made Mia blush. Lulu then gifted Marie the fixed tail of the Raggedy Cat, which she had beautifully mended. The book held memories of her sister. It was very dear to Marie. Lulu also gave her a book known as Eminent Figures Around the World, at Kairos' request. The book showed a portrait of Marie's grandmother, Sasa Tillich. He wanted her to use it to capture a portrait of Anastasia, since they looked alike. Marie, on the other hand, took after her mother, except for the red hair, which her mother said would bring shame to the family. Lulu was upset to hear there were still people who believed that old-fashioned superstition. Still, Marie didn't know why her grandmother was in the Book of Eminent People. Lulu would explain that the grandmother was also known as Sasha the Heroine, and was quite famous. Despite being born during wartime, when women had no real status, Sasha became a military interpreter at 18, commanding 7 languages. She went ahead to revolutionize the way women advanced in society. Kairos then explained that Baron Shatteron had given no reply after being invited for the betrothal ceremony. He didn't understand why the Baron would oppose the marriage now. Marie felt her parents never meant for her to marry, but to simply provide a night of comfort, so they wouldn't have to return the betrothal gifts. Mio initially speculated the Baron refused the marriage because Marie was doing important work, which couldn't be entrusted to an outsider. Lulu claimed Baron Shatteron must have caused a discord between Sasha and the previous Baron. Then, she asked Marie if her father could read and write Flareon, the communal language of nobility. Marie claimed he could, but had never actually seen him use it. If the Baron couldn't speak it, he wouldn't have been able to fulfill his duties. Hearing this, Lulu and Kairos came to a conclusion. He told Mio to send the House of Shatteron a mandatory summon, and if they were to refuse, he would take them to trial in the kingdom's court. Scared and confused, Marie wondered what her father could have done. 4 days later, they met with Ruifan, who spectacularly announced himself, causing Mio to body slam him. Afterwards, he enjoyed the delicious meal that was served, but was shocked to turn and see a much slimmer Topo, who had overworked himself for the betrothal ceremony. Shortly after, Ruifan presented the engagement rings to Kairos and Marie, so they could check the sizing. Kairos quickly told Ruifan to leave because he wasn't about to let him put the ring on Marie's finger. He slipped it onto her, and she said it was perfect. Seeing it was her first time wearing a ring, Kairos was so happy, he sent Ruifan away. Her first ring being a gift from him made her truly happy. Kairos told her he loved her from the bottom of his heart, and she shared the same feelings. As they kissed, Marifon would barge in, interrupting them. Kairos complimented the craftsmanship of the ring, claiming the only person capable of this was the button artisan, Smith Norman. Marifon revealed it was actually Norman who made the ring, and said this was his gift to Kairos. Kairos wondered how Marifon got Norman to do this, since he was known for being stubborn, and Marifon explained Norman had taken on a new apprentice about 3 months ago in the royal capital's artisans' quarters. Hearing this, Marie trembled as her mind thought of only one person possible, Anastasia. Marie asked for the name of the apprentice, and Marifon answered the apprentice's name was Arthur, a 12 or 13-year-old boy. He also believed it was highly unlikely the apprentice could be her sister. Marie then expressed a look of disappointment hearing this. A few weeks had passed since Baron Shatteron was issued a summons, but with no response, all Marie could do was devote everything to learning aristocratic etiquette and write letters of thanks to those who would attend the betrothal ceremony. Also, she could grow the slightest bit more worthy of Lord Kairos. He would walk into her room at night, seeing bruises on her feet and arms due to all her hard work. The next morning, Kairos informed Marie that he had sent a carriage to bring her father here directly, and if the Baron didn't comply, he would have to resort to slightly rougher methods. Marie apologized for her father's behavior, offering to take responsibilities for his actions if it came to that. During Marie's dance lessons, Lulu felt there was nothing more to teach, and she praised Marie for her hard work. Kairos would then approach her, asking for a dance, and she gladly took his hand, and together, they graced the dance floor beautifully. But just when Kairos praised her, Marie's feet would get tangled. He told her to get some rest, but Marie insisted she hadn't pushed herself that hard, only to stumble again. Kairos could tell she was still worried about her sister, so he decided they would see Norman's apprentice. Afterwards, Norman came to the castle, but they didn't expect his eyes to be injured. 3 years ago, while he was working, shards of hot iron pierced his goggles. Luckily, he could still see light, dark, and colors, but as for faces, he could only recognize those he already knew. Norman then apologized for his apprentice's absence, explaining Arthur was ill. Kairos then asked how he knew Arthur was a man, but Norman only took Arthur's word for it. He swore he'd never let a woman into his workshop. Besides, Arthur was still a fledgling with both talent and grit. Since he was still running away from being sold off by nobles, Arthur decided to become Norman's apprentice. Hearing this, Kairos and Marie felt relief. A nobleman's daughter would never speak that way, but Marie would recall Anastasia again after hearing Arthur was skilled in making clothes for women to dress as men. To make it worse, when Arthur was asked about his parents, he would reply, "I'm just a raggedy cat." Hearing this, Marie quickly ran out. Kairos searched everywhere, but there were no signs of her. All the workers also began searching everywhere for her. Later, Kairos would find her in the room near the castle gates. For some reason, she felt like this place would protect her. She felt comfort in this place. Kairos begged to be let in, but as Marie was about to touch the door handle, her mind flashed to an image of Kairos and Anastasia together. After hearing what Norman said, Marie was sure her sister was alive, hence, she felt no reason to remain here. Even though Kairos tried reminding her of the feelings they shared for each other, Marie believed she could never be a match for her sister. She was certain Kairos would fall in love with Anastasia more than her. But it was Marie that Kairos loved. He had always loved her. He questioned if she would simply cast away her feelings, but she knew she could never. Still, she claimed he only loved the beautiful her and not the ugly human she was. Marie loathed herself. She thought she wished her sister were still alive, and yet, if Anastasia was dead, then she'd be able to stay by Kairos' side. She allowed herself to dream. Her true feelings were repulsive, and she was certain they would disappoint him. Marie then asked for the betrothal to be called off, deciding to return to the Shatteron household. Despite his aching heart, Kairos agreed to grant her wish. She thanked him and Mio for all their care, vowing to dedicate her life to reimbursing her living costs and for ending the betrothal. Walking down the stairs, she mistakenly tripped as her shoe slipped off. Kairos would catch her, asking if this is what she really wanted. She hesitated, but replied yes. He knew she didn't mean it, but was upset at himself for being too weak. He then asked if there was anything else he could do, but she told him he had done more than enough for her. He promised her if he could grow a bit stronger as a man, then one day he would come for her. Until that day, he He begged for her to wait. Marie then left without saying goodbye to everyone. Even though they took such good care of her, she believed if someone as ungrateful as her was taken as a wife, it would bring misfortune to everyone. Mia was quite disappointed with Kairos. She never imagined he'd be so weak and cowardly. Instead of choosing a happy future for Marie, he decided to stop her tears for now, scared that he would hurt her. Marie didn't want to get hurt, but ended up hurting him, and he worked to protect her. She was certain it was because she was about to break, but was that really weakness? Marie would suddenly recall his eyes, more beautiful than any star. He always told her exactly how he felt, and yet all she had done was run away. She was so afraid of losing the first treasure she ever found that she lied and said she didn't want it, and even tried to convince herself she wasn't worthy, but she always wanted it badly. At her command, Mia would turn the carriage around at full speed, revealing they'd just been circling the castle all along. Marie sprinted to find Kairos. She let it slip once, but this time everything would be fine. She wouldn't run anymore or lie to herself again. So Marie called out to Kairos, saying, "I want you!" She wanted everything related to him and didn't want to let anyone else have it. Just then, Kairos showed up behind her and they ran towards each other, finding comfort in each other's arms. Everyone else in the castle happily welcomed Marie back, and Tapo presented the ultimate apple pie. So she promised to never run away again. It happened before she even realized it. Here, in this castle, little by little, she built the real thing, a place where she belonged. While they shared a bed at night, Marie sat up and held Kairos' hands, realizing how cute he was. Mio then informed her that the bath was ready. On her way back, someone would ambush her, holding a knife to her neck and asking for her room. That's when Kairos would rush to save Marie, throwing the assailant to the side. As he held up the light, Marie revealed that it was her sister, Anastasia. Kairos was confused, seeing Anastasia was really alive. She quickly asked him to call off the betrothal and offered herself in Marie's place to give him noble children. But she didn't really want to marry him. She saw him as a piece of trash who would buy a woman's womb with money and power. Kairos felt there must have been some other circumstances at work for Anastasia to have appeared at this time. He decided to send word to Norman, then invited Anastasia into the castle. Moments later, she was sparkly clean. Marie suggested they talk after Anastasia got some rest. But Anastasia thought she had a responsibility to talk about the situation. She wanted to apologize, feeling guilty for never really being able to protect Marie. Back when Marie had a fever, Anastasia was scolded by their grandmother. Sasha met her still sitting by Marie's door, informing her that Marie had fallen asleep. They'd then go into Sasha's office, where Anastasia saw documents written in many foreign languages. When she asked why her grandmother was signing the papers with her father's name on it, Sasha replied that everyone was born suited for some things and not for others. Anastasia believed she wasn't as smart as Marie, but Sasha told her she possessed an inventiveness others didn't. It was an ability that would not shine through academics alone. While Sasha spoke of her son's talent with musical instruments, she suddenly coughed up blood. Anastasia would run to call her parents, but the grandmother stopped her, claiming it was too late. In her time, women couldn't choose how to live their lives. However, she hoped Anastasia and Marie's era would be different, and that they would use their strengths to do the work they loved. That was her only dying wish. After Sasha passed away, Baron Shatteron panicked, wondering what would happen to them. He desperately asked Marie how much Flareon she had learned, but Marie only knew a little. Suddenly, Elvira claimed her mother died from catching Marie's illness, saying Marie had killed her. It, of course, couldn't possibly be Marie's fault, but ever since that day, Elvira stopped seeing Marie as her daughter. Later, Anastasia overheard their father trying to persuade Marie to attend a school to learn foreign languages. Marie complained about the cost and how the servants hadn't received their wages for over 2 months now. The Baron coldly reminded his daughter that he was the lord here, and he wouldn't be defied. He claimed women who got an education were always so quick to rebel, and told Marie she was a charmless, unlovely woman. Slowly, Marie began believing that about herself. Anastasia would then run in, confronting her father about saying such horrible things. Lady Elvira stopped her, insisting everything the Baron said was correct. Gregor then continued, telling Marie that everyone loved her sister, but she was not like Anastasia. Marie would start doing the house chores and her dresses would be sold as well. Her father said that her obedience granted her a little bit of charm. That day, Marie's life completely changed. She was made to work from dawn until late at night. In the blink of an eye, Marie became tattered and ragged. Anastasia asked her mother why Marie was being treated this way, and Elvira said it was because Marie had cursed Sasha, leading to her death. She treated Anastasia differently. Because of her blonde hair and blue eyes, Elvira felt as if Sasha had returned in Anastasia's body. Marie was in rags, but was allowed into the outside world. while Anastasia was like a doll, trapped in the house. The Baron was enraged when Anastasia wasn't receiving marriage proposals from more significant figures. As for Marie, he claimed no man would ever want to take her as a wife. However, he wanted Anastasia to fulfill her noble duty of marriage like a good girl. Back in her room, she would sew a lovely dress and thought about how she wanted to try opening a shop in the capital. But all she was permitted to do was be an obedient, beautiful doll, and that soon shattered. When Anastasia was escaping her carriage, she threw a boulder into the river, fooling the driver into thinking she had jumped in. Then, she continued running until she made it into the city. Laying under the moonlight, she laughed with tears of joy, seeing she was finally free. Norman would then approach her after hearing her laughter. Seeing that he was blind, she introduced herself as Arthur and made up a story, lying that she'd been sold off. And thus, Norman allowed her to stay at his house for a while. The following day, Anastasia marveled at the clothes in his workshop. That's when Norman revealed to her that he was a button artisan. She pleaded to become his apprentice, showing the dress she had made earlier and telling him about her dream to open a shop in the capital. Anastasia had nowhere to go and didn't mind doing odd jobs. She wanted to be reborn here and make her dreams come true. So, Norman allowed her to watch and learn from his work. Every day after that was like a dream. Later on, Marie Fawn would come to the shop with a jewel that was meant for Marie's engagement ring. Afterwards, Norman showed Anastasia the exquisite jewel and told her that Count Granado was using this ring for the sister of his betrothed, who had died in an accident. Reading the inscription, Anastasia saw Marie's name. "The dream is over." These were the words reality whispered into her hair. Anastasia was drowned in guilt, believing her sister would never forgive her. When Norman was invited by Kairos to the castle, she feigned illness, but because Anastasia didn't know what to do, her body couldn't move. She wanted to protect her little sister, believing Marie was suffering. Marie was the one person Anastasia wanted the most to be able to walk her own path in life. After recalling the good times they had as kids, she vowed to protect Marie and set off for Granado Castle. Kairos and Mio then came into the room after the sisters were done talking. Anastasia moved to defend her sister from the Count, but Marie showed her that they were actually in love. Still, Anastasia believed Kairos was deceiving her sister. He found it unfathomable that she would doubt his love. If money and power could solve it, he would have abducted Marie. If this wasn't love, then why did he even buy a body pillow? Hearing this, Anastasia became repulsed by him. Kairos then apologized for writing the wrong name on his offer of marriage. He declared his love for Marie was real, and he would spend the rest of his life protecting her. Anastasia replied that if he couldn't take proper responsibility, she would steal Marie back. She was glad to see her sister was now in the place where she belonged. That little girl she needed to save was gone now. The next day, Marie gathered everyone, including Anastasia, so she could hear about the crimes of their father. She then reminded Anastasia of those letters their grandmother used to write in their father's place. After hearing Anastasia's story as well, Marie was now certain their father didn't know Flarian. Official documents were written in that language, Flarian again being the language of nobility. But after Sasha's passing, the Baron made Marie write the documents on his behalf, basically forging them and abandoning his duties as lord. The Baron wanted to hide his incompetence, so he set up Marie as his stand-in an illegal manner. Then he used rags and tatters to chain her down. But Kairos was going to make sure Marie bore no responsibility in these crimes. He and Lulu promised to protect her. Marie was then left to decide what would happen to the House of Shatteron. Until now, she had always run away, but now learned that her decisions could bring happiness and unhappiness to others. So, she decided to face the truth and look upon them with her own eyes. Thereafter, she would come to a decision, and so they were ready to set off to the House of Shatteron. I think it's over for her dad. He's a loser, bum, baron who can't even read. Subscribe to keep up with next week's part, but for now, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one. Thomas told Tanya to open the gate so he could deliver his message to the Baron, but she refused. Seeing amicable methods weren't working, Kairos signaled Rifan, and he charged, bursting the carriage through the gate. They spotted the Baron through the window on the second floor, so Mio proceeded to jump her way up and restrain him. Thomas brought out the rest of the family, and finally, Marie made her sparkling entrance, with a beauty her parents had never seen before. Cedric was sure happy to see her again. Anna was disguised right next to Rifan, and he joked about them not recognizing her, but she'd quip back that he believed she was a boy when he came to the workshop. He laughed, accepting the truth in her words, but now questioned why she disguised herself to come here. Her answer? She wanted to see things play out for herself, to make certain the same mistakes wouldn't happen again. The Baron shouted, asking what Marie was doing, and the couple's sparkles radiated as she asked for him to give their love his approval. If he didn't believe in their love, Kairos had a stack of papers he personally wrote that contained exactly how much he loved Marie. Anna questioned if Kairos was sane. Rufon contained his laughter. Mio answered he's too far gone. Making their way inside to talk more, Elvira began a coughing fit. Anna went to check on her, and Elvira started freaking out over this sinister servant with red hair, the same cursed hair as Marie. Kairos assured her that was just superstition, but Elvira believed it, blaming both her mother's and Anna's death on Marie's hair. Marie tried reaching out to comfort her mother, but Elvira just slapped her hand away. The Baron did not want to discuss things with the prince or Kairos, but Marie would stop him from leaving. Rufon would present the Baron's notice of his title being stripped, confronting him on the fact he couldn't speak or read the noble language of Flarian. Gregor fell to his knees. It finally hit that he was losing everything, unless he accepted Marie's offer. Although the Granado family would essentially take over with talented personnel to assist in handling the documents from now on, he retained his residence and title as long as he apologized to Marie for violating her dignity, brainwashing her, and tying her down to this house. Gregor wouldn't back down though, telling her to stop whining. It was only natural for a daughter to obey her parents. Kairos couldn't believe this. He had to lecture this older man, saying apologizing, seeking help, and feeling gratitude were all essential to being a lord. Gregor clenched his hand so tight it started bleeding. He grabbed onto Kairos, telling him he could never understand. He believed his mother Sasha never expected anything from him. Now Kairos could see it. Gregor wanted Sasha to have high hopes for him. Elvira came out singing the same old song of Marie destroying their house and her red hair killing her mother and Anna. So, Anna casually removed her disguise, making her parents' jaw drop. Anna tried telling them to lay off Marie, but her mother only answered in a hysterical embrace of love, calling Anna her beautiful blonde princess. Anna shoved her mother off, and now the truth was exposed. Elvira was a redhead this entire time. She wasn't done being crazy though, saying Marie could never be happy having the same red hair as herself. Marie understood now. Her mother wanted to be like her grandmother and Anna. Ladies with small builds and beautiful blonde hair were all essential in her mind for being a princess. Elvira expressed her woes and thoughts about someone tall with red hair never being able to be loved. She thought Sasha never loved her as well. Marie once thought the same about herself. So, she closed off her heart. But after meeting Kairos and everyone at the castle, she finally realized she lacked the courage to face herself. Marie apologized to Kairos and Mio, and everyone from the castle who couldn't hear this, for hurting them with her baseless assumptions. Anna then told her mom they weren't her dolls, asking her not to tie them down any longer. And Elvira broke further from Anna's words. In the end, House Granado took control of the Shadowrun lands. Cedric was studying hard at school in the capital to return and become the next lord, and Gregor was attending the same course as well, where upon graduating, he'd be allowed to become Cedric's valet. Lulu and Kairos discussed Gregor's newfound diligence. Gregor apparently found his mother's journal, where she'd written down her feelings about him and his wife. It likely changed his whole perspective on things. Elvira was exempt from legal consequences, but now lives alone in the empty house. Anna was anxious, hesitant to re-enter Norman's workshop. Rufon teased that if she was too nervous for the door, perhaps she could go through the window. Getting serious, she felt bad for lying to Norman the entire time about her identity, and thought asking him to allow her to continue working with him would be too selfish. Rufon would remind her that she cast her life of living as a doll to pursue a life she really wanted to live. He told her to have courage, and he was always on the side of people who worked hard. He pushed her in, and even still nervous, she called out to Norman. Turns out, Kairos had told him everything, including her real name, Anastasia. He presented tools for her to keep, and said she should have told him sooner, also calling her his idiot apprentice. She teared up, embracing him with a heart full of thankfulness. And so, the height of summer arrived. The wedding bell rang as Kairos took Marie's hand. The two smiled at each other as he placed the pink diamond ring on her finger, and everyone clapped. The guests enjoyed Topo's amazing cooking, Tunica's styling ability as she advertised hair oil that could be ordered through the Granado Trading Company, and Johann's plant work. As Marie and Kairos danced gracefully in the ballroom, Cecily wished she had someone to escort her too, and luckily for her, Cedric would come offering his hand, to which she'd happily accept. The two then danced right beside the stars of the occasion. Wolfgang felt glee. Thomas cried because the couple was so beautiful. Anna commented her sister looked beautiful, and Ruifon called Anna beautiful just the same. He really liked the honesty in Anna's face that didn't hesitate even in the face of royalty. He was intrigued by Anna, and despite her size, he had the gall to ask her to try being his wife. He wasn't ready for her to answer yes, and she teased right back that now their betrothal was set. He tried to excuse himself as having 5 fiancés already that he'd never even met. So she flicked his head, telling him she didn't have time to take care of a grumbling prince anyway. Watching them from above, Lulu thanked Mio for watching over the couple. She wanted Mio's insight on if they'd have a happy marriage, and Mio was a little unsure, especially with the two still developing and Kairos being at the height of puberty, but still felt things would be fine. That evening, Marie chatted with Kairos privately, having reminisced everything from the day she met him till today. He told her the day they met, his whole world changed. She was the first person he ever truly wanted. He thanked her for being born and being at his side, but she felt she should be the one thanking him. The day they met, he was the light that shone into her closed-off little world. His green eyes, more beautiful than any star, brought color into her world. When she hesitated, he took her hand and moved forward with her. Things they'd forgotten, things they learned for the first time. Every single one of those things created what they were now. Slowly moving to kiss, they were surprised by the boom of the fireworks. The spectacle was exciting and flashy. Kairos then picked her up, and the two kissed under the brilliant explosions. Aww, what a sweet ending to the series. It's a nice, forgettable piece in my opinion. The only thing I really didn't like was the plot point about Marie's dad not being able to understand some noble foreign language. Other than that, I think it's a nice turn off your brain piece. What do you guys think? Subscribe for more content, but for now, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.